Tim was 18 years old. He was well-mannered, very polite. He was a good-looking guy. He was about 6 foot tall, blonde hair. He was an athlete. He was going to graduate in June. He was the spitting image of his grandfather at that age. His grandfather was a CEO of Wallman Pharmaceuticals. When he was younger, he was a flower child, all right? He and his wife, before they were married, they toured out to Monterey and saw Jimi Hendrix. They went to Woodstock and saw the bands there. Before they got married, when they graduated college, they went overseas and joined the Peace Corps and went to Nigeria for a year. When they returned home, they got married, started a family. His grandfather, in addition to being CEO of Wallman Pharmaceuticals, he also started the mission in Nicaragua. Before Christmas, Tim's grandfather came to him and said, "I'll pay for your college education if you'll do 1 year at the mission." So Tim gave it some thought because he and his grandfather were close. They played cards together, they went to concerts, they went to football games. So he researched the gap year, gave it some thought, and came back to his grandfather and said, "Yeah, I'll do it." Well, about 2 weeks after graduation, Tim took his aviator sunglasses, Ray-Bans that he got for a graduation present, put them on, and went to the airport with his grandfather. They flew down to Managua, then took a 2-hour bus trip out into the hinterlands, that's where the mission was this year. The mission every year rotated between towns in Nicaragua that were ravaged by decades of war. This year, the mission's goals were to rebuild the church and school, to rebuild the water supply, and to start a farm. With these small towns, clean water is important. In this town, before Tim got there, children used to have to walk 5 miles to get clean water for their families. That was each way. They were spending about 5 hours a day getting water. Because of that, they couldn't go to school. There was too much time on the road. And the parents recognized that without a proper education, they couldn't advance. So the first most important thing was to get that water supply fixed. Well, when Tim got there, one of the first nights told his grandfather that, it's going to be wonderful being able to use that Spanish language education that I had in high school. Well, the first task, again, was the water supply. Once that was fixed, the town started to take on new life because now there were the sounds of children running around and playing, whereas before it was silent. There were no kids around. So the next step after that water supply was to build a one-room schoolhouse. Well, Tim, being the youngest, strongest member of the mission, he was the runner. He was the one that got the construction supplies and brought them to the site. When, with all the little kids around, he was able to encourage them to help him. Being the stranger, the kids naturally flocked to him. And Tim was friendly with them and talked to them and never talked down to them. Even though his Spanish was a little shaky, the kids would follow him around. So he got them to carry the nails, the water, the hammers from site to site. When the building was framed, Tim volunteered to take the roofing shingles up to the roof, up the ladder. And if you know anything about roofing shingles, they're heavy. Good thing, the school was finished before the next school year, which, as it happens, corresponds to the beginning of the rainy season. Well, in the rainy season, when it was dry, Tim would be out working on getting the farm going. When it rained, he would be in the school. One day while he was in the school, he noticed this child sitting alone, eating. And being the type of kid Tim was, he walked up to him and he sat down and he started talking to him. And he asked him, what's your name? Why are you here alone? And the kid said, well, my name is Manuel, and I'm new here and I don't know anybody. And so Tim stayed with him while the kid ate his rice and red beans. And he repeated that process any day that it rained. So if he was in the school, he would sit with Manuel. And he learned over time that Manuel was an orphan and that he was living in this town now with an older aunt and uncle who didn't have any children of their own. Well, they became close. Any day that Tim was in the school, at the end of the school day, it was common to see Manuel on his shoulders as they left the building. Because Tim was popular with the kids, Manuel started to acclimate to the other children, and they started to hang out with him. Well then, again, it was a one-year mission, and that 1 year was drawing to a close. So Tim had the difficult choice of going up and talking to Manuel and telling him that his time was done and he was going home. Well, Manuel didn't take that well, and he broke down. And Tim told him, no, it's going to be okay. You've got friends now. But here it was, his best friend, his first friend, popular kid, or popular stranger in town was friends with him, and now he was leaving. Well, it got worse the next day when the bus came to take Tim and his grandfather back home. He went up to Manuel, he knelt down and said, everything's going to be okay, and he put his glasses on Manuel's head. He got up and he walked to the bus. Manuel, through his tears, realized that Tim had left his glasses. So he's running after him, Tim. Well, Tim had gotten to the bus and he heard Manuel running. He turned around, he again went down, got down close to the boy, who gave him his glasses, and Tim took the glasses, put them back on Manuel's face and said, the next time you think of me and you think you're going to cry, put the glasses on. No one will see your tears. As Tim flew home, he realized that he comes from everything. He's got nothing to worry about. He has a complete life. But after spending a year with people who had nothing and yet gave him everything they had, he would treasure that forever. Madam Toastmaster.